Hello and thank you for joining me at the JB&M Sports Fanatic channel. Thank you so much for joining, and we're going to be discussing former Patriots wide receiver Chris Hogan as he is tackling a new challenge now as he is playing lacrosse, which is one of his passions that he's had. He's about 32 years old. He had a pretty decent NFL career, and I'll just go ahead and discover some of his, stats while he was in the NFL. He started off his first 4 years with the Buffalo Bills, and during that time, he actually got to suit up 48 games and start 6 games, and he was targeted a total of 137 times and had 87 receptions for 959 yards, as well as 6 receiving touchdowns throughout his time in Buffalo. And then in 3 years with the New England Patriots from 2016 to 2018, also picking up, a pair of Super Bowls as well. He had started 28 games, suited up for 40 games, and he had 107 receptions for 1,651 yards, averaging 15.4 yards per catch, and 12 receiving touchdowns throughout his time with the New England Patriots, which was it was definitely his most productive, span with any team. Although he spent 4 years with Buffalo and those 3 years with the Patriots, he certainly was a big asset, especially when it came to end those playoff games and stuff, whenever they'd be looking for Julian Edelman, or either Julian Edelman would get hurt or something. And then, with Gronk, missing one Super Bowl against the Rams, he certainly was a big asset for the Patriots. And so, the statistics, don't exactly show in terms of during the regular season his importance there, but he certainly was a great player. So throughout his entire career, he ended up with 18 receiving touchdowns throughout his time in the NFL. So certainly was someone that he feels that he still could play. He did spend a year in Carolina, a year with the Jets as well. So he feels he can still go out there and ball. And so he goes on to state that, he feels that him as a football player, does he think that he can still play? Absolutely. He says there's no doubt in his mind about that. But at 32 years old, he's not playing football where he would, at the minimum, he'd be making more money than what he's making now with the, base minimum of 1.75 million this season. But he traded in, the football for his passion, which is lacrosse. And even though he's going to be making less money, he feels that he has some valid reasons as to why he made this decision. So he said he spent the last 2 years on IR. Obviously, that's hard to come with. Anytime you're injured 1 year, it takes a toll on you mentally. Then to go back out there and get hurt again, you have a lot of time to reflect. You start thinking about, man, like, am I ever going to be the same? Oh man, do I really want to give this type of effort to go back out there? I'm getting older now, things like that. Obviously, he's got a family, things like that. So he says, it was hard on him. It was hard on his family, and he felt like he had accomplished more than he ever could dream of, just accomplishing in the NFL. I mean, he did play in 3 Super Bowls and, was a key part in 2 of those championship teams with the Patriots in 2016 and 2018. So that's more than, most people could ever dream of. And so he says that he was just at a point in his personal life where he felt that it was time for him to make the decision to be around his kids, his wife, and his wife is beginning her career as a doctor. So he wants to be able to support her going after her dream as the same way that she supported him while he chased after his dream. So definitely can understand and respect that. So by him playing lacrosse, he'll now have more time to spend with his family. And so they go on to state that he joined the Cannons of the Premier Lacrosse League as an undrafted free agent, which is the same route he took in the NFL, a decade earlier. He had been a top lacrosse player at Penn State before transferring to Monmouth for an extra season of eligibility in which he played football. So he previously was a lacrosse player in college at Penn State. That just goes to show a lot of times these athletes, they don't always go with the sport that perhaps they're the most passionate with. They sometimes make the decision to go with the sport that either they're best at or either the sport that probably just pays them the most money many times. As we've seen other athletes out there express interest in playing a different sport. I know Kyler Murray, he wants to be a 2-sport type of guy, but we've certainly seen this happen amongst athletes for sure. And so he says in that sense, he's come full circle. And so he said, we're not all Tom Brady's. We can't play for 25 years. He says he felt that it was time to check this off the list of trying to play 2 professional sports. And so he got back to the sport that he loves so much and gets to be around his family, which is, obviously a big part of his decision, just being able to spend time with his family. He says he knew that lacrosse was not something that would take him away from his family, and he'd be home during the week, maybe travel here and there. But he said he could be a dad, he could be a husband, and not spend months away from them at a time and dragged all over the place. So certainly that was a huge impact in his decision there to choose to leave, football and the money that it does present and play lacrosse, a sport what he's passionate in. So you get to have your passion and spend more time with your family. And as he gets older, that stuff that's going to, become of more value than however much more he'd be making in the NFL, especially. Now, man, as I mentioned earlier, he came in as an undrafted free agent here for this lacrosse team. And I guess you can say that the timing, it actually made a lot of sense because when he arrived, the Cannons were, obviously an expansion team. And so Coach Sean Quirk, he says he identified Hogan as a player of interest. Early on, they had some discussions with Chris before the entry draft. And, they had 3 picks. And he was upfront with him and said that, they were really interested in him, but they don't know if they were going to draft him. But he said if you're not drafted by another team, they would love to pick him up on the waivers. And so obviously that's what they did. And because they were building an expansion team and had nothing coming into this, they said that they were really able to do their due diligence on who, they were going to select and that sort of thing. And he says he was a little surprised that other teams did not, take a chance and draft them on their roster. But obviously, that both worked out well for them. So that makes things very interesting in that regard. And so things really just worked out for Chris to be able to play the sport that he loves and have an opportunity of a lifetime to continue to say, hey, I played not just one professional sport, but I played 2. So things are looking really good for him. And I'm hoping the best for Chris Hogan, and his success here with the Cannons moving forward in lacrosse. But with that being said, thank you so much for joining me for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making this video and look forward to making more content for you. So thanks again for your support and see you guys next time.